The rain hammered against the windshield as Marcus Williams navigated the dark country road, his knuckles white against the steering wheel. His daughter Emma slept peacefully in the backseat, clutching her worn teddy bear. They were heading home after another grueling hospital visit, another round of treatments that drained what little remained in his bank account. Being a single dad was hard enough. Being a single dad with a sick child felt impossible most days. The headlights caught something unusual ahead. A shape on the side of the road. Marcus squinted through the rain, his heart lurching when he realized it was a person. He slowed down, debating whether to stop. This stretch of Route 47 was notorious for being deserted, and every true crime podcast he'd ever listened to screamed at him to keep driving. But then he saw the blood. Marcus pulled over immediately, his hands shaking as he unbuckled his seatbelt. "Stay in the car, baby," he whispered to Emma, though she remained fast asleep. He grabbed the flashlight from his glove compartment and stepped out into the storm. The woman was in a police uniform, lying face down in the mud, her blonde hair matted with rain and blood. Marcus's breath caught in his throat as he knelt beside her, fingers fumbling for a pulse. It was there, faint but present. Her eyes fluttered open for just a moment, unfocused and filled with pain. "Officer, can you hear me?" Marcus asked, already pulling out his phone to dial 911. "I'm calling for help right now. Just hold on." Her lips moved, forming words he couldn't quite hear over the pounding rain. He leaned closer, and she grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "Trunk," she whispered. "Check. Trunk of my cruiser. Save them." Marcus looked around frantically and spotted the patrol car about 30 yards away, nose first in a ditch. He glanced back at his own car where Emma slept, then at the dying officer. Every instinct told him to wait for the ambulance he'd just called, but something in her desperate eyes compelled him forward. He ran to the cruiser, nearly slipping in the mud. The trunk was slightly ajar, damaged from the crash. When he wrenched it open, Marcus froze. Inside were two children, a boy and a girl no older than 6 and 8, bound and gagged, their eyes wide with terror. They were alive. His mind raced, piecing together what must have happened. This officer had intercepted something, saved these kids, and someone had run her off the road for it. His hands trembled as he carefully removed their restraints, speaking in the softest voice he could manage. "It's okay now. You're safe. I'm going to help you." The next hour passed in a blur of sirens, flashing lights, and questions from arriving officers. Marcus held the two frightened children wrapped in his emergency blanket while paramedics worked frantically on the injured officer. Emma had woken up, and with the innocent wisdom of a child who'd spent too much time in hospitals, she quietly shared her teddy bear with the little girl. "Is she going to be okay?" Marcus asked one of the paramedics as they loaded the officer into the ambulance. "Because of you, she's got a fighting chance," the medic replied. "Another 10 minutes out here, she wouldn't have made it." The officer in charge, Captain Rodriguez, approached Marcus with a grave expression. "Mr. Williams, I need you to understand something. Officer Sarah Chen was working undercover on a human trafficking case. Those children you found were being transported across state lines. She was following the vehicle when they discovered her identity and forced her off the road. The suspects fled, but because of your quick actions, we have the victims safe and Officer Chen alive to testify." Marcus felt dizzy. He'd stumbled into something far bigger than he'd imagined. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Rodriguez said firmly. "Most people would have driven past. Would have been too scared, too suspicious, too busy. You stopped. You didn't know if it was a trap or an ambush. You just saw someone who needed help." The local news picked up the story within days. Marcus tried to avoid the attention, but in a town of 15,000 people, word spread fast. He returned to his routine, his 2 jobs at the warehouse and the diner, spending every spare moment with Emma during her treatments. Life moved forward because it had to. 3 weeks later, Marcus came home to find an unfamiliar car in his driveway. A woman on crutches stood on his porch, her arm in a sling. Even without the uniform, he recognized her instantly. "Officer Chen," he said, his voice catching. Sarah smiled, though pain still flickered in her eyes. "I had to come thank you myself. The doctors said you saved my life. You saved those kids." Marcus invited her in, where Emma was doing homework at the kitchen table. The little girl looked up and waved shyly. Sarah sat down carefully, and for a moment, neither adult spoke. I heard about your daughter, Sarah finally said. About her leukemia. About the medical bills. Marcus stiffened. We're managing. I also heard you were denied the police force 4 years ago because of your arrest record from when you were 19. Stealing food because you were homeless. That was a long time ago, Marcus said quietly, shame heating his face. Sarah reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. The police force took a vote. Unanimous. We want to offer you a position as a community liaison officer. It comes with full health benefits that would cover Emma's treatments. Captain Rodriguez pulled some strings with the review board about your record. We also started a fund. The entire department contributed. It's not everything, but it'll help with the existing medical debt. Marcus stared at the envelope, unable to process what he was hearing. I don't understand. Why would you do this? Because you embody everything we're supposed to be, Sarah said, her eyes glistening. You put someone else's safety before your own without hesitation. You didn't see a uniform or a badge or a case number. You saw a human being who needed help, and you didn't think twice. That's the kind of person we need on our force. That's the kind of person I want protecting this community. Emma looked up from her homework, sensing the emotion in the room. Daddy, are you crying? Marcus wiped his eyes quickly, laughing through his tears. Happy crying, sweetheart. The best kind. The ceremony 3 months later was small but meaningful. Marcus stood in his new uniform, Emma beside him in her Sunday best, her hair finally starting to grow back after the successful treatment. Sarah, now fully recovered, pinned the badge to his chest while the entire police force watched. Officer Williams, she said formally, then added with a warm smile, thank you for stopping that night. Marcus looked out at the assembled crowd, at the 2 children he'd saved from the trunk who sat in the front row with their reunited parents, at his daughter beaming up at him with pride, at the community that had embraced him when he had nothing left to give. Thank you for giving me a reason to believe in second chances, he replied. The rain had stopped weeks ago, but Marcus would never forget that stormy night on Route 47. The night he learned that sometimes the smallest acts of courage can ripple outward in ways we never imagine. That kindness, even when it costs us everything, is never wasted. That being human, truly human, means stopping when every logical reason says to drive on. It wasn't about being a hero. It was about being present in someone else's darkest moment and choosing to be the light.